You know, it may be crazy, but we're gonna do it. The Dueling Cavalier is now a musical. Hot dog!
Hallelujah!
Fellas, I feel this is my lucky day, March 23rd.
Oh, no, your lucky day is the 24th.
What do you mean the 24th?
It's 1:30 already. It's morning.
Yes, and what a lovely morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
We've talked the whole night through.
Good morning.
Good morning to you. Good morning. Good morning. It's great to stay up late. Good morning. Good morning to you. When the band began to play, the stars were shining bright.
Now the milkman's on his way. It's too late to say goodnight. So
Good morning.
Good morning.
we've talked the whole night through.
Good morning.
Good morning to you.
Morning. Good morning. We've gabbed the whole night through. Good morning. Good morning to
Nothing
you.
could be grander than to be in Louisiana
In the morning.
Good morning.
We've talked the whole night through.
Good morning.
Good morning to you.
Hello.
Hey, howdy, hey, everyone.
Hold on, Dan. I got to start things off with this comment from John Gaffner. I'm here. You can start now. We're so glad you're here, John, and we are
Hey,
happy to start
John.
just in time for you, baby.
How you doing, my love?
It's been a while. Oh, I'm Nicole, in case this is your first time ever tuning in.
Yeah. For those that don't know me, my name is Daniel Higgins, and for those that do know me, please keep your opinions to yourselves.
Oh, Matt Rosenberg likes your graphics, Dan.
Hey, I worked a whole 2 days on them. I'm very proud. Maybe
Thank
I should have been doing more productive things, but I mean, the world's a clusterfuck, so might as well make movies, right? Oh,
Clusterfuck
gosh.
is a word for it. Yes, it's midnight, so we will be swearing.
Yes. I'm not going to hold myself back, and if you're offended, you can go fuck yourself. That's how I feel.
Jesus.
I mean, start early. That's what I say. Thin them out. How's your 2020 going?
Well, I mean, I haven't talked to you since when was the last time we were on here? July. It's been a while.
We have not spoken at all since July, not once.
Oh, not
We
at
barely
all.
talk. Who are you? Yes, I feel like
I'm kind of excited to be back, though. I gotta say, Dan.
yeah, I am excited to be back, but I'm back. I'm excited to be back in the fall. I'm glad that it's the fall and everything is quieting down, except for the fact everything's on fire. And I'm excited to be here. And I hope we have some nice escape for everyone tonight, because we're going to be talking about our favorite thing in the world, which is theater. We have a new format tonight, don't we, Nicole?
Yes, I would say it's slightly updated. I guess they'll see later, but we're going to keep a lot of the usual things, our theater news, our book section. I love books, Dan. But we're going to get a little bit more opinionated in a section that, what are we calling it? We're calling it open debate. That's what we're calling it.
Open debate.
And we'll be joined at that point by our friend of the show, Elena Faverio. She's been on before. We adore her.
We love her. We're so glad that she'll be on. And she's ripe with opinions, or so I've been told. Yeah, we're super excited to be bringing a new format to you guys. We're going to do some new things and some old things, and we're going to do a bunch of other things. But first, what we're going to do is our usual news segment.
Oh, I thought we were going to...
In white people news, Ben Brantley, co-chief theater critic at the New York Times, is stepping down from the post after 24 years. The Times confirmed on Thursday. Brantley joined the Times in 1993 and became chief theater critic in 1996. He is the longest-serving New York Times theater critic since Brooke Atkinson. Quote, "This pandemic pause in the great, energizing party that is the theater seemed to me like a good moment to slip out the door," Brantley said in a press release. Quote, "But when the theater returns, I hope to be there as a writer, as an audience member, and above all, the stark raving fan I have been since I was a child." Jesse Green, his co-chief critic, will remain in his role, and Times will look to fill Brantley's position. Brantley's last day will be October 15th.
Oh, wow, the voice you did there, Dan, gave him a bit more gravity than I feel he
Yes.
deserves.
Yes. Well, it's funny that you mentioned that. Like, I feel like, who am I going to hate now? It's like, I don't know what to do with myself. I'm sad. I'm broken up about it.
I don't know if I don't think I hated Brantley, but I feel that I don't know. I never agreed with his opinions, barely ever. Jesse Green is a bit better, but even Jesse Green, it was a bit of a disappointment when Jesse Green was named co-chief critic a few years ago, whatever the heck that.
And he's going to remain in the role. He's not going to get to step up.
Well, no, he's going to be chief critic, I think, and so whoever they pick is going to now be junior to him.
Well, the press release says that Jesse Green, his co-chief critic, will remain in his role. That to me sounds like he's not changing. He's staying where he is. Yeah, but I don't know.
But now he's alone, he'll be chief critic, I guess. I don't know.
I guess so.
Unclear if they're going to name somebody to like partner him or if they're going to name somebody to work under him. In any case, I think some fresh blood would be nice.
Yes, it'd be nice to have someone younger, maybe someone
younger. Well, when they named Jesse Green, everyone was like, they're finally going to appoint a woman. They're finally going to appoint a person of color, and they did neither of those things. Not that Jesse Green is a fine critic. He's got some good opinions, but I mean, I would love to see someone. I don't know. Sarah Holdren has moved out of criticism now. Jose Solis would be good. Somebody new.
Yeah, but not. I don't want this to be a total Brantley bashing moment because I want to say something like my father used to say to me that he would read the Rolling Stone because the film critic in the Rolling Stone was always the opposite of how he felt. So he knew what films to see. So I feel like my season choices were sort of dictated by what Brett Brantley hated. That's fair. I will miss him. I will miss him for that reason, I guess.
That's fair. But we do have some more news coming up for you. In streaming news, really. There's a lot of theater-related streaming happening at the minute. The first piece, Heidi Schreck's Tony-nominated play, What the Constitution Means to Me, filmed in the final week of its Broadway run last year, lands on Amazon Prime Video October 16th. In the play, Schreck resurrects her teenage self when she put herself through college by giving speeches about the U.S. Constitution to trace the effects of the founding document on generations of women. Very excited to see that. I kept missing it every time it was on. Also coming up, Mort Crowley's seminal play, the 1968 play, The Boys in the Band, in a version adapted for the screen and starring Jim Parsons, Andrew Reynolds, and Zachary Quinto, is currently available on Netflix. The play about a group of gay men who gather for a birthday party in New York City was considered groundbreaking for its portrayal of gay life. Joe Mantello directs. And finally, sorry, go ahead.
No, it's interesting. I read this really great article in the New York Times, ironically, that I would say they speak a review of the film, but in the context of, have we evolved in the way that we portray gay characters? Have we really actually evolved any? And it's I highly recommend, you can find it at the top of the theater section of the New York Times. It's an excellent article because I don't know if we have. So something to consider when you get to watch it.
Sounds like a topic for a different EastLine Insomnia. Oh, John Geffner says, no Matt Bomer. Matt Bomer is in it as well. I just didn't give him top billing, John.
He didn't reach into our top hotties, so we're gonna have to say we're sorry.
And finally, you may have seen the pictures yesterday. They looked really good. The screen adaptation of August Wilson's Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, starring Tony and Oscar winner Viola Davis and the late Chadwick Boseman in his final film role, will premiere on Netflix December 18th. Tony winner George C. Wolfe directs. Based on Wilson's 1982 play, the movie explores the exploitation of Black musicians in 1920s Chicago.
Wow. That sounds incredible.
Sounds
what also sounds incredible, for those that are looking for something a little more depressing, we probably all heard this. Glenn Close is to headline an Angels in America benefit for the Foundation of AIDS Research Fund to Fight COVID-19. A starry cast that also includes Laura Linney, Patti LuPone, and Jeremy O'Harris will present a free hour-long virtual benefit performance of 7 scenes from Angels in America, Tony Kushner's 2-part 1993 play about the AIDS epidemic, on October 8th. The show, which will be streamed live at 8:30 p.m. on Broadway.com, on their YouTube channel. So that's exciting.
If I'm not wrong, Glenn Close is doing a scene as Roy Cohn, so I'm very excited for that.
And what we're also excited for is a quick shout out to our friends over at One House. The One House Festival of 10 Plays, which is being organized by our wonderful friends Deb and Chris Ruby and Billy Muir. We'll be performing a series of brand new one-act plays on October 9th, 10th, and 11th, featuring plays written by Ali Cantor and Adam Bellajon, among others sure to be wonderful plays, which is going to be concluded with a live award ceremony, which will be held on the 18th. So, that's all exciting. We hope you guys will check out their stuff.
Yeah, Dan, have you seen their truly beautiful poster?
Yes, I have.
I am obsessed. They're so classy, and the way they all go together and the color scheme.
They're so sleek too. Like they're evocative. Like I want to see them. You know, what
exactly.
I mean, it really makes me want to see it. So, shout out to them. We hope you guys have a wonderful run. This now brings us to our friend. We get to bring our friend on, Nicole.
We have friends.
So, yes, we have friends.
Oh my goodness.
We only have friends that we debate with.
Still, this Congress refuses to grant any of my proposals on independence, even so much as the courtesy of open debate. Good God, what in hell are you waiting for? Thomas, for God's sake, listen to me. I had enough of you, sir. Now listen. Open up a window. Will you listen to me and forget the window?
She is a Long Island-based actor, creator, and occasional writer of musicals. She is an EastLine Insomnia regular. YouTube sensation Elena Faverio is with us.
Woo-hoo!
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Elena.
Hey, friend. What's
nice to be back. Thank you for having me on again.
You are a favorite person to share opinions with.
Yeah, you're gonna start thinking we like you. We have you on so often. Don't get any ideas.
I know I'm starting to get really flattered. So I'll slow down before I get too excited.
Okay. So what's up? What's new? What's exciting?
Yeah, not much. I mean, difficult pandemic. Trying to be creative. Still making lots of videos, making 2 videos a week, trying to find ways to, the new thing that I'm trying is to find ways to like collaborate successfully from a virtual distance, because I think it's very tricky and I don't have a lot of experience in virtual medium. So that's the hurdle I'm trying to jump these days.
Well, that's the hurdle we're all jumping. And
yeah.
That's the thing we're not used to. It's a whole new medium and we don't know what to do with it. You know?
Dan and I have become video producers.
It's so true.
But also, real quick, I believe that you recently returned to the physical stage. 1 week ago, you did an event with our comrade in arms over at the Collective, which I believe was Shakespeare in the Parking Lot, right? That's the part you did, yeah.
Yeah.
They did so much. I unfortunately don't know what exactly you were part of. What part of it was.
So it was a whole weekend long event on Saturday and Sunday where there was just a full day of art and vendors and music. So during the day there were bands playing, and also it was interspersed with new one-act plays that had been written specifically for the festival. And then in the evening, both nights we did a series of abridged Shakespeare plays. So it was Romeo and Juliet, Othello, Merchant of Venice, a one-man Hamlet, and Macbeth, and I was in 3 of them.
I was the supporting character in the one-man Hamlet. No. I was the ensemble in the one-man Hamlet.
I would watch your one-man Hamlet, Elena.
I would too.
Oh, I'm honored.
But what was it like to go back to the stage? Like, it must have been weird.
I mean, in some ways, yeah. I mean, in some ways, it's genuinely the very last thing I thought I would be doing in the middle of a pandemic, is like getting on a stage with people. But and also, doing it outside. I don't know if you've ever done any outdoor theater, especially like outdoor Shakespeare in big spaces that don't have enclosed walls and sound systems. It's like a totally different technical beast for actors. And I found myself, flying straight back into that space and having to really use my voice and my body for that sort of scale. It was a big jump, but it was also a lot of fun.
Did you feel that it was, because of everything that's going on, did you find it was like difficult to connect because we have to. If right now we're living in a time where we have to stay from a certain distance from everybody, and that's now becoming ingrained in our sort of like cultural like psyche, and the whole essence of theater is to have connections with people and to get to know them and to get close to them, literally and physically, and mentally. So, did you find that there was any sort of foreign aspect to that like the essence or the communicative part of it changed at all?
I mean, it was definitely different. And for me, I've never worked with the collective or with Out of Bounds in any way. So I was meeting a whole new group of actors. There wasn't any, well, there's one person I'd worked with before out of the entire cast, and having to rehearse completely on Zoom. We had one in-person rehearsal, 2 in-person rehearsals before our performances, which were a lot of tech. So it was definitely like a big adjustment and a lot of trust and just hoping that everyone would show up and be game. And people really were. I will say that like it was an awesome group to work with. People really went for it. And I think there's kind of an exciting energy in it being like the first time we're getting to do it live. It's chaotic, but it's also quite like there's a spark to that, I think.
Did you feel you were scared at all?
Yeah. I mean,
Rough.
I mean, like it's a pandemic, I think to say I felt completely 100% comfortable at all times would be a lie. They did do a really good job of, taking care of us, making sure we all felt comfortable with the staging and the contact and having masks available. And so there were a lot of precautions in place. So I did feel like they did take care of that. But I think, there's always that sort of that fear because it's just part of our daily life and it's a serious pandemic. And, I did feel a little scared.
No, I feel no one's ever going to feel 100% in the times we're currently living in.
Exactly. It's, I think taking reasonable precautions is the sort of thing, like I felt reasonable precautions were taken. So I felt, comfortable to do it.
Fair enough. So should we move on to our big topic of the night?
Oh, fancy. So what's the question today, Nicole?
We are talking about, should America have a national theater? So I prepared a little slide with a bunch of national theaters around the world, mostly the pretty ones.
Gorgeous.
We don't have opinions at all about the architecture of theaters. I don't know what you're talking about.
No, there is a vast range of architecture there.
That is true.
Theaters can have any style. But I thought we might start the conversation by discussing like what is a national theater? What is our definition of it? Anybody want to chime in there? Anybody? What are the elements that make a national theater?
Well, I've only ever been to the National Theatre in London, and honestly, I don't actually know, but I'm kind of assuming that my understanding is that it's at least partially or fully subsidized by the government.
That's fair. I would think that's an essential part of a national theater.
I also think it's deeper than that too. I think yes, obviously it's nationally funded, but a lot of things are nationally funded. So I think it kind of encroaches on sort of the psyche of the culture as well. Like I personally think that a national theater is a product of its society, that not the other way around. If that makes any sense. It grows from them. There's a personal aspect involved. I feel.
I would say it definitely has to be started from within. Maybe it needs to be started by theater artists of the nation. Do you feel does it have a steady employment? Like, do they have for example, the Comédie Française has a steady troupe of actors that they work with, and then all their shows only star people from within the company.
Really?
It does, yeah. I did a bit of Wikipedia reading.
I didn't know that. That's why I'm surprised.
Yeah, well, I believe that the Royal National Theatre in London does as well have a certain group of people that they work with, but it seems much broader in that sometimes, obviously, they have like movie stars and I don't know who got like Gillian Anderson. Sometimes they have not even British people. So like there is a large range of. Well, first of all, like if we had an American National Theater, would everyone have to be American?
I guess that no, because if it's America, they're all going to be British because that's how it works in America. Well, I mean, isn't there's sort of an economic aspect to it too? You know what I mean? It involves a nation wanting to fund it. You know?
Well, yeah.
You know?
John Geffner comments they tend to be in countries where they feel the arts are essential.
Interesting.
That's fair. Well,
does that mean we don't view it as essential here? Is that a fair assessment?
Well, I think we're gonna get more into like specifically like an American National Theater and what that would entail and why we do or do not currently have one. But on the whole, what kind of works of art does a National Theater present? Like are the plays written by only people from the nation? Are they?
I think every single play I saw at the National Theater was written by an American.
Really?
Yeah, I saw Ugly Lies the Bone. I saw Angels in America, and I saw I just
think that's so ironic.
And that's it.
But that's like part of it, isn't that what you were just mentioning before, Nicole? Is like the National Theater is like a byproduct of Britain and their society. And okay, here's a multi-million-dollar production of the American Fantasia. You know?
Well, I do not know exactly what the National Theatre in London, and obviously we're English speaking, so that's why we're so focused on the National Theatre in London. But I don't know exactly what their mission is. But I do know I was reading the original literary manager at the National Theatre, this gentleman called Kenneth Tynan. He's kind of like a giant in British theatre. He had this list that he released back in like 1965 or made back in 1965 of all plays that he could see like being performed at the National Theatre. And the list is actually quite wide ranging, features plays from like most major countries, Chinese plays, Japanese plays, lots of American plays, like basically Arthur Miller's whole repertoire. Obviously lots of like medieval plays, ancient Greek plays, Shakespeare plays, medieval French plays, like every Moliere ever written. So he obviously did not seem to think that it was a necessary thing that the plays be only British. The list was obviously largely British because those are the plays that are in English, but he seemed to think that the mission might be to largely just present good theater. I mean, that could be a mission for a national theater. I don't know if I personally think it's the mission of a national theater. But to present good art for a nation could be a defining characteristic of a national theater, I feel. You want to skip over to the next slide where I've put some... I've made a second slide. Not that I did some research, but I did some research because I was thinking, so we've had a comment. I thought Lincoln Center was a national theater. Now, I as well did not really understand what Lincoln Center was and did a bit of research about what Lincoln Center is. Lincoln Center is just a nonprofit that got very lucky. As in they did a deal with the city of New York for this grand piece of property, but they received some government funding, obviously through like the National Endowment for the Arts and things, but not any more than anybody else. Maybe a lot because they're so large, but they are not in any way a national theater. There are some things that could possibly qualify as a national theater. Up on the top left-hand side is the National Deaf Theater, which is actually entirely funded by the Education Department of the United States government. So it is technically a national theater. And then we've got some other examples of things. The American National Theater and Academy at Washington Square was established in the 1930s, but has since sort of petered out. ANTA is what it was called. It's actually where Man of La Mancha premiered.
Oh, wow.
Really?
Yeah, so they were government funded back in 1935, and the Academy part of it was funded all the way through 2012, but has since petered out and no longer really exists. And then, of course, in the middle there is the Federal Theater Project, which is possibly the closest thing we ever got to a national theater. Well, I mean, the American National Theater was one, but it didn't have much going on. So the Federal Theater Project that's Hallie Flanagan. I've been doing a lot of reading. I've read her book this week, you guys.
She as amazing as she sounds?
Hallie Flanagan is the biggest babe. I highly recommend her book. Her book, Arena, is a Bible for me, I have to say. The poster you can see in the middle top is for a play called It Can't Happen Here, which premiered in a bunch of different cities on the same night.
Wow.
Which could lead to, I feel, an interesting format possibly for a national theater. So next question that I had on my list was, do we already have a national theater? So, I mean, sorry that I kind of answered that myself. But I mean, can you think of any other examples of things you might consider national theaters? Or like, is Broadway a national theater?
I think it depends, because we didn't really actually ever say what qualifies something to be labeled as a national theater. And for me, I always literally just assumed the only thing was that it was funded by the government. Mm-hmm. And if that's the criteria, if that's the single criteria for something to be a national theater, I genuinely have no idea. But mm-hmm. there are things that I would consider like cornerstones of American theater, an American commercial theater, like Broadway.
So for you, what are the cornerstones besides Broadway?
Broadway, and then there's some regional theaters. Like I can think of mm-hmm. like the Guthrie.
Yeah.
Like Steppenwolf even. Mm-hmm. Like there are some companies that are quite big. There are a few, like my friends in Minneapolis, for example, would have some that they'd say like, this is our theater, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, but it's interesting you mentioned that, because it's you know, speaking about the point of the fact that it's funded by the government, you know, because we live in a society and a country that functions by, you know, I'm going to say it, by capital gains.
Yes.
You know, I'm just going to say it. Mm-hmm. There's this sort of, our national theater was born from that model. It wasn't born from a model that was thinking about arts in the sense of whether or not it's going to enlighten or be a duty or an essential part of your society, but if I can make a buck on it. So like you mentioned Steppenwolf, and we mentioned Lincoln Center, which Lincoln Center is a nonprofit, but they live and die by their ticket sales, you know, not to say the National doesn't, but you know, there's a different essence completely, I feel, in the reason and the why, not necessarily in the how, if that makes sense.
Yes, because most of these places that we've looked at would have come from like a historical place of like patronage and like a monarch being like, yes, and I will pay for you to write a play about me. So you can say it's like a national theater, but I feel like it's almost national in the sense of nationalism. Like it's super political, and because it's like a monarchical system, it's coming from like one person, and it's a small enough country that's possible, and there could be like a national theater. Whereas what you're saying totally makes sense to me, that because we're like, you know, Alexander Hamilton, who was like, thanks.
Yeah, well, I kind of see it like, you know, other countries see theater as like a part of their identity, whereas Americans see it as a fun Saturday night. You know, like there's like this different way of viewing the art form, you know, and that goes across all art, I think, in American society, which is not what this conversation is about. But, you know, you buy a painting so you can hang it on your wall, you know, so not to donate it to a museum, you know, like there's ownership. That's the word I'm looking for. There's an ownership quality to it. Is that I feel.
Oh, that's interesting. Because I think living in London, I sort of got to look at like how actors would fit into that model. And there is, you know, obviously in London and England specifically, the history is that actors would go to a drama school, graduate, join a rep company, which is not such a thing anymore, but do, like you're saying, shows in rep in regional theaters, which we do have a regional theater system.
Yes.
You know, build their career that way, and then maybe achieve stardom through film or something like the West End. But there was like a pipeline, and I still in some ways felt like that exists in London because theater is so centralized. There is more of a pathway to like, you want to work in the theater, it's possible. Here's how you do it. And it's sustainable. Whereas in America, obviously,
the whole thing is a crapshoot, and there's no clear, like, there's more of an apprenticeship feel in London, I feel.
Yes.
Ooh, Matt Rosberg asked a good question. Is America too identified with film and TV to sustain or care about a national theater?
Ooh, interesting. Because if you think about it, film is, I mean, yes, obviously film started in France in like the turn of the century, but filmmaking as a commercial thing was invented by Americans in New Jersey, you know? So like, you know, Edison, right? Edison, I think that's the name of the town where it started, right? And it was Thomas Edison who first really kind of sold films. So I would say so, in my opinion.
I mean, there has always, we're getting off the topic here, but I do feel there's always been a split in American performance, in that there's an East Coast and a West Coast, which doesn't really exist in London to the
Yes.
same extent. If you're an actor, you live in London. That's really, I mean, obviously there's always a regionality that they're always fighting for larger support for regional theater in the UK, but here it's so split coast to coast that there's no single gathering place for artists all over the country.
Yes, completely. And actually, that's kind of, I know you brought me on the show to talk about national theaters, but I've been talking a lot with my friends about, you know, the deconstruction of theater during this time, and how like we're all sort of hopeful that the renaissance of theater post-COVID will bring about like a much more community-based and like local system of theaters, rather than the idea of like centralizing and nationalizing theater. To me seems like that's where so many issues come with having, you know, sustainable like economic practices for artists and theaters. Like so much work is, you know, sourced out of New York at the moment. It's like this massive hub, and we like pump artists out of New York and send them to Wisconsin and send them to, you know, literally wherever. And if we had a national theater, my fear is that that's so, like you were saying, Danny, capitalistic and like single tracked.
Yeah.
And what we should be doing is like focusing on the artists in our communities and growing local arts organizations to make us have, you know, sustainable regional theaters and communal theaters that are more stable. And you know what I'm saying?
Doesn't that get born from, though, is the argument about, you know, yes, I 100% agree with you that theater needs to become more focused in the idea of a community, sort of like on Long Island, sort of. And sorry, it's past 12. I can say whatever I want. But no, in all seriousness, is that how do you fund such a community? You know, the nation is so large. We're so many different cultures. I mean, you just go to New Jersey and you feel like you're in a different country. And not all these places view arts in the same way. You know, we're very lucky, I think, to be living on Long Island, where we're just from the city. So we've lived near the capitalist way of it thinking. So obviously we want a piece of it for ourselves. And I do think that their struggle would be to ingrain it into the society and to think that it's essential enough to have community groups that do this and that they should be supported by their community. And you need some sort of national focus to sort of accomplish that.
Well, I mean, I feel this has sort of led us into the next section of our discussion here, which is what would it look like? I feel Elena's kind of leaning into it already with a larger focus on regionality. So, I mean, personally, I feel it wouldn't take the form of a singular national theater in any specific city. I mean, not to be all Hallie Flanagan on it, but during the Federal Theater Project, the Federal Theater Project was divided regionally into a sort of New England, the South, the Midwest, the Southwest, the West Coast, and that each section was managed by a different person, and almost every state in the union had separate federal theater projects going on, and they were supported by local groups as well, so they would work with local groups. And this is obviously something that is still sort of going on, in that our large regional theaters do, for the most part, receive government funding. But I tend to think that an American national theater would look more like that, would be regionally focused.
Right, but then...
Sorry, go ahead.
Then I think you're also talking about divorcing, because I think being in London and having literally a national theater like building complex has really got it. When you asked me to do this podcast, I was like, no, I don't want that. Like a national theater as like a physical building isn't interesting to me at all in any way in terms of like moving American arts forward. But like what you're talking about, which is like creating ways to channel funds and support into local organizations, makes me be like, all right, so what we need is like some sort of national, I don't know, like a national endowment for the arts. Or like,
you know, like that, you need that thing that Republicans hate to fund.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously that already exists, but is that the same thing as a national theater? Or is theater projects managed? It's because to me, that's not currently, that just grants people things and they propose projects. But a national theater for me is managed sort of more from the top down, in that, like, not necessarily like one singular person in charge of everybody, but sort of that there would be, what's the word, when everything goes together, everything would go together about the country, and you would be able to see how the different projects happening all over the country fit together.
There would be more like connectivity.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, but don't we struggle from, when it comes to connectivity, about your fellow countrymen, I guess, for the lack of a better term? Like I mentioned incorrectly an actual political party before, and I apologize for that, because I feel like the problem that with us as a culture is that politics have become so steeped into everything we think, do, and say, and that goes into theater as well. I mean it like in the sense that, like, so everyone sort of associates theater or the arts in general that they sort of skewed liberal point of view, right? And because of that, and you got to think about where it came from. I mean, you know, the theater was built by the disenfranchised in order to have a place where their voices could be heard, and you know, it's par for the course, you know, with a culture that's founded on that. Like outside of Democratic and Republican. For the theater, it's about having a voice, and they need to. So obviously, those people are going to gravitate towards people that want to protect them. But I think because that ends up just naturally becoming a political endeavor, that certain areas of the country that do not align with the party that most of the artist people align with, there starts to become this rub where people can't really come together to sort of think towards a larger sense of theater, towards a communal sense of theater, because they don't want to necessarily be in the same community together. You know?
Because they're not. I would argue because they're completely not. And the idea of trying to create a communal theater for the United States of America, I think is like, I honestly think that's quite disingenuous. And I think that's even a problem that the National Theatre had, which, you know, in the UK, which is quite small, and London, which is geographically small, that there was a lot of criticism of the work that was put up there, because a lot of people were like, this is, you know, like, this isn't at all showing certain classes. It was often like a season that was heavily skewed to like male playwrights or had a lot of like male directors. I mean, there's, you know, when you have something that has top-down organization, it does allow for a cohesiveness, but you still are getting then like gatekeeping of what's important art. And I think, Danny, I do agree with you that like, just because someone has deemed art to be like good and necessary doesn't mean that it's going to speak for everybody. And like, you know, I'm maybe the last person to say this, but like, even if there's art being made that isn't like good, like what I would call like good in terms of morality, maybe that's okay, because maybe America isn't like all one thing, if that makes sense. And I think that feels to me like that sort of hodgepodge feels more like what the National Theatre should be, less gatekeeping and less like we're doing this, and more like what is happening, what do you want to do?
Yeah, totally. I agree to some extent that the country is too different to unite. I guess, I don't know, I've been reading a lot of Hallie Flanagan again. So I'm just very like, let's bring back the Federal Theater Project. But so her main focus was on regionality. So I can see both sides of it. I can see why we maybe just want to fund individual projects. But there is even like the National Endowment for the Arts is gatekeeping to some extent. It's like somebody has to decide who gets the money. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So even though they do grant to everybody all over the country, somebody at the National Endowment for the Arts makes that decision. So I guess I would prefer a sort of system where there is actually a theater specific system, not art, not dance, not opera, where it is divvied up by region, so that person in charge of deciding who gets money in that region is more familiar with that region.
Yeah, but so long as money is involved, right? And not to say that you can do it without money. I don't want everyone to assume that's what I mean. But like, you know, when you have a society that is so embedded in capitalism, you know, is it possible to sort of see dollars and cents outside of political lines? You know, when you fund something that's going to then fund something else, you know, generally who you give the money to will naturally become political, because the people not getting it are going to be pissed, So, I agree with Elena in the sense that gatekeeping who deserves that funds is not a great idea, maybe for our country as it stands now. But I do recognize that I would be happy to see a national endeavor that tries to bring theater into communities that don't necessarily get the opportunity to experience it, and maybe try to mature those people into seeing that they too can enjoy it. I'm just going to say it because, but that's how people view theater. They view it in this sense of like a sense of maturity or a higher plane or why should I see something I don't necessarily agree with? Or, I had a family member who shall remain nameless, who when we went to a museum, he said, why would I want to go stare at shit? And it's like, and that's true. Honestly, it's a true story.
Honestly, a salient point.
But I'm just saying, like, that's just the idea of going to experience art is just not even in their radar of thinking, So yeah, I guess maybe mature was a harsh word, but it definitely, like, we need an incentive beyond money to sort of get into these people's way of thinking,
Yeah, Matt Resberg says, the question is, do we have shows that will connect to people from a specific region, or do you expose a region to stories they normally wouldn't hear? Which sort of leads into our next question, I guess, is I was just thinking, like, what would a repertoire of a national theater look like for Americans? And
oh my gosh.
To Matt's point, like, what, like, would it be specific shows for specific regions? How would it work? How would it actually work if we were the government?
Oh my God.
Elena?
Whenever I hear this question, I just like think of Arthur Miller, and then I get so worried. Do you know what I mean? Okay, so I was thinking of this, like, it's like reading plays in school.
Mm-hmm.
Thinking about when someone decides for you what important art is, and historically who have been the people who decide this is important, we must all read this, and then reading it and being like, I find this to be a bit crap. Like, what's the point of this? And I would just be so worried that it would just be crap. Do you know what I mean? Like,
what makes you say that? What draws you to that conclusion?
Because I've been now through high school. I got my BA from one of the best liberal arts colleges in America. And then I went to one of the top conservatories in London, and I read the same plays over and over and over again by people who were like curating the canon for the next class of artists. And it was just uninteresting, Western focused, white, predominantly male, some female. And then we'd have like a week on people of color and a week on queer writers. And that's still happening in schools, and it's happening in artistic institutions. And that makes me think that at this point, it would happen if we were trying to develop, like, what's the repertoire? They'd be like, yes, it's a season. Everyone will do the Crucible, and it'll be about, I don't know, this political I don't know. That's not what I want to see.
So you seem very wary, Elena. So are you wary of government funding in general, or?
I'm not wary of funding, but I'm wary of, like, the processes that surround it. Because like Danny was saying, there's someone who has to make decisions there, and it will inevitably be linked to politics. So whoever is in that role would be influenced by whoever's in office and the political leanings of the nation. And I don't think they're inseparable. And the idea of something being national also makes me think of centralized, also makes me think of, like, singular. And I think when that happens, like, things get reduced down to, like, we must create something that is, everyone will do this one thing, so it has to be the best thing. That often cuts away, like, instantly ends up cutting away, like, minority communities, low-income communities.
Well, no, but I'm glad. I'm interested that you mentioned that, because it's sort of like you're suggesting, and correct me if I'm wrong, but that our nation can't fathom something in that vein to create some sort of national theater program. Maybe in the sense that the canon of writing hasn't expanded in this nation, or in theater in general. We haven't grown outside the immediate square of what we've been told by the people who told the people who told the people is theater. And then it doesn't necessarily match the people of the nation. So why would they be interested?
I don't know that I agree, because I feel that currently Playwrights Horizons, for example, is serving as an almost like National Playwrights Theater. It is the #1 theater in the nation for new playwrights. So I at least in New York, we are producing new playwrights, and regional theaters throughout the country are actually quite good at producing new plays. So maybe it's already happening. Maybe we already have a national theater. It just happens to be a network of regional theaters that are semi-funded, but are not in any way related. But I guess I'm very I guess I would like to see, I guess, a guarantee of quality across the nation, almost like the postal service. You know how it's actually really too expensive to deliver to someone who lives down dirt road in the middle of nowhere, but we do because it's a national service. I guess that's how I feel about the theater. It may not make monetary sense to produce theater in a tiny place in Nebraska, but I feel a national theater project would make us do it. Do you know what I mean?
Right. But for me, again, then that boils it back down to funding, because talking about New York as being a birthplace of, new writing and really supporting, diverse writers, I completely agree. Mm-hmm. And I'm obviously not suggesting that America has no new playwrights of value, because obviously that's untrue. I'm talking sort of more broadly in terms of what my specific experience has been as an actor, being presented with important texts, that maybe the answer is the reason New York is the place is because New York has the most places where it's not a financial risk.
Yes, I would agree to that.
Like if you were, theaters in Iowa who are we need people in seats, they're bringing in Kinky Boots and The Crucible and A View from the Bridge,
Money, money, money.
I don't know why I just
money.
Miller. I do know other playwrights.
No, it's okay. I feel that.
But I would like to make it not a financial risk for organizations all across the country to produce something more interesting, I guess, is what I would hope the purpose of a national theater would be. But I don't know.
Yeah, me too.
Anyway, we should wrap up. I've got a final quote from George Bernard Shaw, because why not? Do the English people want a national theater? Of course they do not. They never want anything. They got the British Museum, the National Gallery, and Westminster Abbey, but they never wanted them. But once these things stood as mysterious phenomena that had come to them, they were quite proud of them and felt that the place would be incomplete without them.
So, Elena, did you know, I don't know, did you know this? That in China, there are job opportunities available, okay? Okay. Very interesting, intriguing job opportunities. One specifically, the job of panda nurse.
Oh, yeah.
Did you know this?
Oh, yeah.
Which basically means, it means you get paid to cuddle with pandas all day. That's basically the job. Okay. And they pay for your room and board, and you become certified. It's a whole big deal. Okay.
Okay.
Now, my question to you is, does that make you question your career choice?
Oh my God, yeah. I also got fired today, so thank you for offering me an alternative solution to my...
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. This was not planned. I did not know that.
Listen,
I feel like my joke is in terrible taste now.
No. As the Mother Abbess once said, when God closes a door, he opens a window, and maybe my window is Panda Babies.
The next musical, maybe? Panda Babies the musical? What do you think?
Yeah, listen.
I would watch the hell out of it.
I'm just saying that you create YouTube work, which, by the way, I just want to say, I take this as the highest form of compliment I can give, which is that your work inspires me. Like, just the way that you go about using the medium and the stories you want to tell and the things you want to tell and the way you go about them. It really, truly, it is excellent work. And I watch all of them. And I love them. I really do. And I hope you keep doing it, because when I'm stuck in a rut, I go and see what you came up with, because it just somehow gets me out of that rut. You inspire me.
Thank you.
And what is your handle for those that are interested?
Yeah, where can people find your work?
Oh, if you want to find my work, I'm on YouTube. You can search my name, Elena Faverio. Make sure you subscribe to my channel, and then you'll see the new videos as they come out. I do 2 a week.
Awesome. And the next one will be about panda babies, yes?
Yeah, I'm going to acquire a whole bunch of illegal pandas.
Oh my God,
I'm going to get them
over, Elena.
I'm going to train them for the first National Theater show, live streaming from my backyard.
It has to start somewhere.
It'll start right here in Smithtown.
Oh gosh. Thank you so much for joining us, Elena. We love you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Stranger. I'm sure we'll have you on again. Thanks for dropping by.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
And now it is time for Book Report.
A book report on Peter Rabbit. Peter Rabbit. Report on Peter Rabbit. A book report on Peter Rabbit. Peter Rabbit is a stupid book about the stupid rabbit who steals vegetables from other people's gardens. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. 83 to go.
I love the Peanuts so much.
Oh my god, that was adorable, Dan. Good choice. Good choice.
Thank you. And speaking of choice, what was our choice this week, Nicole?
We read The Watsons, a new play by Laura Wade, adapted from the unfinished novel by Jane Austen.
Ooh. For those that may not know about Emma, you want to give us a brief, quick little let them know?
About The Watsons, you mean?
Yeah. Well, about the book it's based on, I guess, is more.
Well, to be honest, I don't know much about the book that it's based on, except that it's an unfinished novel by Jane Austen.
Well, there's a movie. A movie came out recently, didn't it?
You are thinking of Emma, a different book by Jane Austen. This happens to have a main character called Emma, I think is where your confusion is.
Okay, so that's where my confusion came from. Okay.
No worries.
I did not know anything about this before I read it, which I guess now I have proven that point. Is that, no, I went in completely blind.
And that was the way to go in, I feel.
I would 100% agree, and that's why I don't want to say too much about it, other than that it takes you on a wild ride. It makes you think about anything and everything that you could possibly think about in theater, all in one play. And it's got such, you know what I'll say, Nicole? It has such a fresh voice. You know what I mean? It's almost like she takes Jane Austen and gives her a fresh new voice. Like she almost rebirths it for us today. That's what I would say.
Definitely. It's so funny. And unexpected. I would love to. I mean, now I will never be able to see this play in a theater not knowing what happens. But
that's true.
Imagine being in a theater and not knowing what happens.
Well, when you get through the first half of the first act, you think you know where this is going, and then you hit this, I don't know, a staircase that leads you to like somewhere completely different. And at first, you're sort of like, where is this going? And then when it happens, it's exactly what you hope. It's exactly what you thought you'd want.
Your reaction was priceless, I have to say.
It's true. My jaw fell.
I think you literally said, "What's going on?"
Well, I was sitting there, like I was like rereading lines twice, and I'm like, wait, what? Why is it? What? I mean, I felt in my gut when it first started to happen. I was like, is this gonna go there? And then when it happens, I was like, oh, this is cool, you know.
And it's just it's so funny. I can't emphasize enough. So funny and so original, and really enjoyable read that I feel we'll be revisiting.
Yeah, well, we may be revisiting it at book club.
I feel like it's probably an option because we've read. I know you know I love to read a tragedy. We've read a lot of tragedies, so I feel like this is a little bit more lighthearted and something we'll probably end up reading there at some point to bring a bit of comedy to the proceedings.
So the Watsons, played by Laura Wade.
Give it a read. Give it a read.
Now, time for Liza.
Well, someone tell me, when is it my turn? Don't I get a dream for myself? Starting now, it's gonna be my turn. Greenway world, get off of my runway. Start now, I got 1,000 big-time boys. I'm taking a vows, and everything's coming up right. Everything's coming up roses. Everything's coming up roses. This time, for me. For me. For me. For me. For me. For me. For me.
God, I love her so much.
Oh, get it, Liza. Get it.
She's the freaking best, man. I mean, the video makes me sad because it makes me think, God, we never got Liza Minnelli's Mama Rose, and then it makes me sad after it because I feel like in that video is the most I've ever seen her like her mom. That is the most Judy Garland I think I've ever seen Liza. And I think it's because she's honing Judy in the performance. Like it's a little tiny snapshot, like a commercialette to what could have been. And it's just that is my favorite bootleg.
Brian has commented a bunch of emojis which do not display on the platform we use, but I'm imagining confetti. Maybe. What do you think, Dan?
I think. Well, I can see them. I can see them.
Champagne.
What? No, they're like
it?
Star eyes. She's like starstruck.
Okay, I too, Brian, am starstruck by. I think that John also agrees. The starstruck eyes. About
yes, I think that is the only correct opinion. So we're winding down our Insomnia, everybody. Thanks so much for
it's 5 minutes too.
Yeah, we're gonna wrap us up. We just got a couple of quick EastLine commercials we want to throw your way, and then we have to get back to watching the news and seeing how the president's doing. I
was gonna watch Bake Off too.
Oh, we didn't talk about Bake Off. They replaced Sandy, and I'm so sad. Not happy about it.
Anyway, we're gonna have you in bed by 1, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, we are. So one of the cool things we got coming up your way, guys, is that we're gonna starting next Saturday. We're gonna start releasing some poetry, actually, which is a curated series of poems that are sort of in tune with nature as it develops over the next 3 months, which is also going to be taking a focus on, the climate in which we live in and the world that we maybe sometimes take for granted, and going outside and taking a breath of fresh air and recognizing how grateful we should be for that. And we're very excited about that. We got some great EastLine artists involved, and they're starting on Saturday. And we hope you guys will check them out. We're really, really stoked to be bringing them to you guys.
Because we're going to be featuring some Long Island imagery. We love
this
little island we live on. And tomorrow, EastLine Book Club always meets Sundays at 7 p.m. We'll hope you'll join us. If you go to facebook.com/EastLine Book Club, you can join our Facebook group and you'll get all the notifications. Tomorrow we are reading a play called Teenage Dick by Mike Liu. Don't Google it. I Googled it. Don't make the same mistake. But anyway, it's a really hilarious take on Richard III, but set in a high school. Richard is running for class president. You will love it. We hope you'll join us.
Yes, it's a great. Me and Nicole saw it. We saw it at the Public. It was excellent.
Yes, and
the only show I ever gave the Public money for.
Join us every Sunday at 7. We read a different play every Sunday at 7 p.m.
Also, if you join Book Club, you will see that we run Movie Club bi-weekly every Thursday. We're actually having a special movie club coming this coming week, where we'll be watching the aforementioned Angels in America. So we hope you guys will join us for that. We also, the Thursday after, we'll be watching Pirates of Penzance, the production, with the original theater hottie,
Kevin Kline.
Come salvate with us.
Kevin Kline doing with cat-like tread. Oh my god!
So you got to join Book Club Facebook. You got to join the Facebook group, or you won't know what's happening. So join the Book Club. Yeah.
Facebook.com/EastLine Book Club.
Yeah.
If you want even more of us, we are back here next Friday night at midnight again.
Yes. Please come back. The next topic's going to be fun. I'm not going to tell you until Wednesday when we get our act together. But we hope you guys enjoyed, and we hope you come back. We're super stoked to be back. Super, super happy to be doing this again and talk with you guys. And if you want to join us, comment on the post so that we can get you guys involved.
Comment down below, and you might have a chance to be on air with us.
Yeah.
I made that sound like that was some kind of prize. Was it?
Come down. The price is right. Come deal with our bullshit, and we'll deal with yours. Oh gosh. Anyway, thanks for tuning in, guys. As always, I'm Danny Higgins.
I'm Nicole Savin.
And this has been EastLine Insomnia. Wear a goddamn mask already.
Good night.